Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I am Ashley Nicole Moss, and joining me tonight on a very special edition of the pod is one of our favorite guests. We can't pick favorites, although internally we can. Miss Erica Ayala, how are you? How you doing?
Hey sis, I'm here on the road, just excited to get to talk after this big matchup that was very highly anticipated across the WNBA for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah, and the matchup you were talking about obviously is the matchup between Minnesota and New York. It just wrapped a couple of minutes ago before we went live on this pod. But before we dive into all the intricacies of it, we have to remind you, as usual, to follow us on all of our social media channels as listed below. And make sure you're subscribed, notifications turned all the way up for our YouTube page, and scan this QR code right here so we can pop up wherever you get your pods. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple. So look, there's no reason why you should not be tapped in with us right here at We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. Okay, Miss Erica Ayala, we're going to dive in. Shout out to our Liberty, though. They got the dub. That's the most important. The dubski is what we like to see. But I think that there are a few observations on both ends of the court that we can dive into. But first, let's talk about the New York Liberty, the winning team. What does this kind of show you about the Liberty, especially because they've had some up and downs post the All-Star break, but obviously getting a win against a Lynx team who is a team to be reckoned with in this league has to be nice when you've been a little bit up and down post All-Star.
I think there's a lot of things here. One, this New York squad flat out needed a win, and a win against a team this time in the season, I think bodes well for them. And then, yes, you have that it's the Minnesota Lynx. This is a rivalry that is continuing to evolve and form. We've heard what Sandy Brondello had to say about some of the comments that the Minnesota Lynx players have been making. And I think more so, this is just again a New York Liberty squad that knows where they want to be come the postseason. And right now, the Minnesota Lynx, they are pacing, they're setting the pace, I should say, for the WNBA. But then there are the execution things, Ashley, that the New York Liberty have not been able to do, whether they're playing the Lynx or not, if we're going to keep it a buck. And
Right.
so getting this win, definitely still things that need to be sorted out, but this is a step right, and a little break from film where all you're doing is harping on all of the execution flaws, and then knowing that it's a loss, they can look at this, see how they were able to gut out a win, even though, again, execution wise, there were some things that they still need to fix.
Yeah, obviously, we got to put some notes here, though, about the overall trajectory of this game. I mean, first of all, Sabrina Ionescu absolutely just balling out. Had that dagger three kind of sealed it. But New York, interestingly enough, although Sabrina had that clutch three, if you look at her overall stat line, 17 points, 11 assists, she went 4 for 10 from the three. But the bigger thing here to kind of note is New York as a whole went 13 for 32, which is absolutely abysmal. Obviously, the bench on the other side of this conversation, when you talk about Minnesota, is what kept them in this game. But that 3-point percentage for the Liberty as a whole is disgusting. That's how you lose playoff series.
And this is something that I've been saying, when talking about the Liberty and other places. This team has a tendency outside of Sabrina Ionescu to fall in love with the three-pointer. And that's something that I want to see them fix. We saw Jonquel Jones able to connect and made some big threes, and you want that, but it's got to be a give and take, because not necessarily just looking at Jones, but you want to be able to go, as Sandy Brondello says all the time, paint to great. And those paint touches, I think, is the other side of what you're talking about. If you're taking that many three-pointers, not making them, then that means that you aren't, in my estimation, getting enough touches as should in the paint. Sometimes the three is not going to be there if you're forcing it, if you just don't
Yeah.
have your shot, you don't have your legs. There's so many things that can go into it. So for me, it's about just the lack of efficiency, but then also, why are we taking that many shots, fam? You know, there's only a handful of, or less than a handful, a couple of players on this team that I want to see. That Sabrina Ionescu is one of them. But everybody else, y'all gotta make the buckets that are gonna get you points on the board. Period.
Yeah, I'm not, obviously Sabrina, is going to take those shots and make those shots, but I do not love attempting 32 three-pointers, especially again, you're going against the Lynx who have had their own struggles post the All-Star break, but I'm just thinking about it in terms of the playoffs. You can't win a playoff series missing that many threes, taking that many threes. It's just kind of like Boston Celtics basketball, and you know how we feel about that. So in New York anyway. But on the other side of the equation, let's talk about the Minnesota Lynx. Some of the notes here, they outscored the bench outscored the Liberty's bench 38-13. That was the key to this game, of keeping them in this game, I think, for as long as they were able to, because when you look at the other things, the Liberty out rebounded the Lynx. The Lynx did win the points in the paint battle, which helped them 38-28. But I really think the key thing here, especially with the injury that the injuries that the team has been dealing with, the fact that the bench can come in clutch like this, even though they didn't win, but can keep it a game, is something that's relatively very interesting to me.
100%. I mean, of course, you and Carrington, who's the addition here, but teaspoon of the modern era, not the teaspoon of the New York Liberty era, but Natisha Heidemann was fantastic. I mean, had some shots late in the shot clock from deep that are just daggers if New York isn't able to execute there. And so when you're talking about bench points, that's how Cheryl Reeve and this Minnesota Lynx team have built up to be against a team like the New York Liberty. The injuries to the New York Liberty don't help them when it comes to some of that. But if you look at, who you have coming off of the bench, Stephanie Talbot, Maureen Johannes combined with 5 points. Kennedy Burke, who has one of the highest 3-point percentages in the league, let alone for the New York Liberty, with 8 points. Natasha and Sabrina, who are players who were able to get in double figures, but even 10 points for Cloud, I think, especially if you're not going to get bench productivity, you want to see a little bit more there. So the New York Liberty squad rotations are in the blender, to say the least, and they've been that way for the entire season with so many different injuries. Has been out. Near Sabali is still out. That's bench points you're not getting. And Leonie Phoenix just had to do a lot for this team. And she got 10 points tonight, but there have been times where she's been, in single digits. So that's, like you said, it's a difference. The Liberty, and that's where you go to the film. You're looking at, okay, what are we doing in that second unit, or the units that we kind of are mixing and matching in the game, where we're opening things up, because these players are going to have to contribute, given what we've seen from Minnesota all season. I'm saying when, because I do think these teams have a great chance to meet once again in the postseason.
All right, guys. So we are going to hit pause on this because Erica's on the road, and with that comes a whole brand of technical difficulties. And we are going to present the rest of the show later in the week. We have a lot to dissect, but we had to give you our quick breakdown of the Liberty and the Lynx and all that went into it. We'll go a little bit more in depth later on in this week. Don't worry. As usual, make sure you are locked into all of our social media channels, following us on YouTube, and at the end of the show, scan this QR code and it will pop us up wherever you get your pods. And again, we're on Spotify and we're on Apple. We'll see you in a little bit.